Yo, what is going on, guys? I'm back. I no longer have jaundice from yesterday. Now I am just the normal amount of Asian yellow. So yesterday, Brawl Talk hit. I'm sure many of you have probably heard and have probably seen my reaction to it yesterday. Oh my god, definitely check that video out if you haven't. But basically, online, the community has more or less been melting down over the recent Buffy's announcement. It was already announced like a week ago or maybe more, but the official Brawl Talk, I think a lot of people were kind of holding their breath, kind of waiting to see like, okay, is the game as cooked as we all think it's going to be? And then Brawl Talk hit, and now everybody's like, holy shit, we're cooked. We're as cooked as we thought. It's over. Game is dead. Brawl Stars is ruined. Devs, fuck the game, greedy sale, ruined everything. The economy is falling, and I'm a fucking chud. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I personally haven't been that concerned about the update. And so, you know, it was kind of like a really weird like juxtaposition here for me, where for the first time I feel like I'm actually not really feeling that much of what the community sentiment is. Like there's just a lot of negative community sentiment about this update. You know, I'm just coming clean here. I don't personally get it, but I talked to my friend or my roommate who actually he's dabbled in some Brawl Stars, but he doesn't actually play it that much anymore, and he's just very much like I would consider like a casual player. He counts at like 20-something thousand trophies, and he plays like sometimes. He's mostly like a Frank main, and I talked to him to kind of get his opinion really quick, like, hey man, have you seen the Brawl Talk? He hadn't. Have you heard? And so I showed it to him and kind of wanted to get his thoughts on it, to kind of just generally get a more casual person's perspective on the update. And I have, I guess, a few thoughts after talking with him. There's also, I think, just generally thoughts on like all the other changes that are kind of happening, like the HP changes. There's some specific Buffy's balance that I kind of want to talk about. There's like individual brawler balance changes on top of the HP global changes that I kind of want to get into. So today we're just going to talk about that. It's going to be me yapping. Fuck, I like had a lot to eat for dinner today, and I'm kind of having a food coma, so excuse me. I'm like so fucking tired. I want to fucking jerk off and go to sleep. Okay, bro, I'm gonna be honest, I'm working overtime here. Clocking in on a fucking Sunday night. Okay, I should be sleeping. It's fucking 10 p.m, bro. So I'm an uncle, I'm an old man, I'm a grandpa, I'm a fossil. It's my bedtime an hour ago. Okay, but I'm putting in all this, pulling out all the stops for y'all, so be sure to like and subscribe and use code Bedlam in the Brawl Stars shop if you support me. Oh man, okay. So to start us off, I guess we should just begin with kind of, I guess, the elephant in the room, and let's talk about community sentiment a little bit. I have had probably, I would say, the fortune of being on the good graces and the good side of general community feed, like, you know, opinion for a while. I think a lot of people online tend to glaze me as like being generally pretty real and based and true and the good take haver in a lot of cases. Sometimes not so much, depending on like, you know, who you ask, and my opinions on the Brawl Stars economy more or less. So yeah, I don't know, maybe that could be considered like my more hottish of takes. If you don't know what my take is, you know, in general, I think the free-to-play, you know, progression system right now is actually very good for free-to-play players. You can get, I've done a lot of calculations on this and a bunch of other videos, but basically you can get right now, before Buffy's, more than one brawler maxed out every month, just free to play, if you know, just do like a few things, like, you know, play your daily quests basically, more or less, and get your daily star drops and stuff. You can get, just in gold and power point amounts, more than one brawler maxed out. That's power 11, 2 gears, 1 star power, 1 gadget, 1 hypercharge, bot, all with coins, and, you know, power. Like you can do that more than one per month just by playing free to play. If you don't believe me, you can check out my videos. But, you know, Buffy's is going to, I guess, change that. We don't exactly know how much it's going to be changed by. Essentially, the quick like calculations that I have done in my head. Yeah, so basically, to give you the gist, they are going to be buffing the free-to-play resources in the Brawl Pass directly. So the free track here is getting an additional resource key, which you can redeem for either 2,000 coins or 2,000 power points or some odd credits. I don't really know. Or was it Bling? I think you redeem for Bling, sorry. But like, don't do that unless you really don't give a fuck. And you're losing 5 star drops, but you're actually gaining 6 chaos drops, which in this article, a new star drop called the chaos drop, which is worth an average of 4 times more. Just going off of directly that, you could say that you're more or less gaining 6 times 4, which is 24 star drops from the chaos drops, minus the 5 that you lose. So you're getting like on net 19 star drops, I guess, free every month, of about equivalent's worth. And you're also getting 1,000 coins plus the resource key, which we'll say is worth 2,000 power points, which I guess is going to be the big sync. I imagine for a lot of people it's going to be the limiting resource. And, you know, bling and credit amounts, which nobody really cares about the credit amounts because we already get like more than enough to get every brawl in the game. And then 2 mega boxes, which I don't really know the equivalence worth in terms of coins or power points, but It's an amount that is, I'm gonna assume for the sake of this, more or less, this estimate that I'm gonna do is more or less negligible. Putting all this into account, per year, I just really quickly did some quick changes to my old star drop math spreadsheet. On net, it seems like just adding these values in from the resource keys for the power points and the additional coin buffs for the coins, it looks like on net, there's a potential to get, assuming you do your, you actually complete the free pass every year and you actually get your, your star drops and maybe even like 5 bonus rewards a season, which is worth like 3,000 coins and 1,000 power points per year. It's not that necessary, but the actual, like, the gadgets and star power value that you can get from them is worth a lot, so definitely worth it to do it. Assuming you do your daily star drops, which is actually out of date because they updated the star drops too. Oh shit, this is actually out of date. It's lower in this calculation than what it should be. Assuming you do your mega pig, assuming you get, sorry, I just really quickly changed something. Assuming you spend your gems on the 99 gem offers that you can get for hypercharges, those exist. I honestly, before I had this set as these 79 gem offers that they had every time new hypercharges drop, but they're not really going to be doing that as much anymore, I assume, because we're not like releasing hypercharges. So I don't really know the best way to spend gems anymore, but I'm just filling it in with the 99 gem offers that they do sometimes in the shop, that for like hypercharges that they put in every now and then that I've seen around. Assuming you complete the ranked pass, you can get star drops from that. Assuming, daily logins, everything, whatever. In theory, it's possible to get a total of 380,000 coins and about 90,000 power points a year. Now, coin-wise, getting actually like all of the coins that you need, that doesn't really matter. The coins are definitely, you get an excess of those because of the different ways you can spend them and on like gears and stuff, additional gears I should say. But the actual power points now is gonna be lower than the necessary required to actually keep up with 12 brawlers a year or 1 brawler per month, and it's down by quite a lot. I mean, we're a deficit of like 25,000 power points at least to actually keep up with 1 maxed out brawler a month with all 3 buffies that you're getting, which is not great. Now, this is obviously not keeping it to account like the daily rewards thing where you can get like, lucky days, sometimes like mecha boxes, the new brawler events too. I didn't add those. The main thing is that Supercell is basically saying that in additional special events that they'll do, so like maybe in the upcoming brawler days or some other special events that they'll have every now and then, obviously every update they have like some temporary event or something that gives a bunch of resources, that they'll fill in the gap that's here, and maybe even for additional coins too with those special events. Who really knows? There is also obviously the trophy road that has been buffed, I think, with chaos drops, I heard, and records as well, that has some shitty amount of coins in it. There are other ways to get resources, but yeah, I don't know. It still is like, it's concerning that there is a deficit there that Supercell says they'll make up in other ways, but we don't really know that. And that's kind of my main concern with these buffies, is that, free-to-play players aren't really going to be able to keep up. But like in yesterday's reaction, at the very end of the video, most of you probably didn't see it, but I said that I'm willing to give Supercell the benefit of the doubt because, like, I think their track record is pretty clean, in my opinion. I don't know. I've never seen anything from Brawl Stars, the development team-wise, that would imply that they don't have the players, interest in mind, that they want to make sure free-to-play players cannot keep up with paying players at all. I've never seen that they have had that kind of a mindset when developing this game. Like in every single event that they do or update that they always give a ton of resources. If there was ever any kind of like, abusable bug or something, or some way that people were getting like a ton of resources, like they just usually err on the side of letting people just keep whatever they got. Like if you got lucky, you got lucky. Maybe they'll even give additional compensation with like an additional box or whatever that they'll give out, or legendary star drops or some shit. I feel like they've always done a pretty good job of keeping on the good graces of the community. And yet, if you go on like the online communities like our Brawl Stars, for example, people are kind of dogging on Frank. There's a joke post here of a quotation, not sure why people always assume the worst, because of a really quick, I think, Twitter exchange that happened where Frank on Twitter says, we're not skipping the Brawl Days. Some people were like, are we skipping the Brawl Days? Because there was no mention in the Brawl talk about Brawl Day rewards. Frank says, we're not skipping the Brawl Days. It's just small timing change due to the update timing itself. Not sure why people always assume the worst. And people are kind of dogging on him, like, not sure why people always assume the worst. And it's like, I think they have a screenshot here of Frank saying that back in the Brawl talk, when they were removing boxes, I guess implying that because they've now since then added boxes back, that like the players are justified justified, I guess, in assuming the worst when something happens. I don't know. This is like kind of a nonsense post. I don't really understand. Like, this particularly is kind of ironic too, because the only reason they added boxes back is because the game was they fucking killed the game when they removed boxes. I mean, shit, people wanted to gamble. That was the whole thing. Like, people felt like the game was less exciting when they removed boxes, so that's why they added it back. I think honestly, this post, if anything, kind of highlights to me that there is not much there. Like, people are assuming the worst here, but they aren't able to like point to any actual like example of like, hey, we added this resource that everybody hated and we just kept it in. Like, we slashed free-to-play resource incomes to the point where no one can keep up with, and that's just how it is now forever, and you are all fucked. Or like, you know, like we added all these broken abilities and we never nerfed them. Like, that's never been the case, and I don't know why or where all of this negativity online is coming from. But then enough glaze. I have talked to my friend and kind of gotten like a general, I guess, perspective on the update that I personally, I guess, find it harder to relate to, because my account in Brawl Stars is maxed. If I go in like my in-game account, like my main account, I've been maxed out for years. I don't even buy the Brawl Pass anymore because I personally don't feel the need to, but I still get net more resources than I spend, even despite maxing out the new brawler every time, just because, like I showed in my math, you get more than enough resources to max out a brawler at a time. And I just have a stockpile of resources that just keeps growing more and more because I play every day. And so when Buffy's drops, I will have enough resources to basically buy them on the spot for like at least like 30 brawlers, 34 brawlers. And then by the time they even get to that point, I'll probably have enough resources to buy more, and I'll guess I'll drop money when it gets there, but I'm not really thinking about that, and I'm just thinking instead about how cool Buffy's will be. And so that's why I personally don't really feel that big of like oh my god, the game, it's going to be impossible. I don't feel that big of a negative reaction to Buffy's, even though like I can look at the numbers and say that like, yeah, we are probably on net going to have to spend more than we gain for a while. But then I kind of talked to my roommate who, like I said earlier, is kind of a more casual player with the game, doesn't really interact that much with it, and his reaction was basically something along the lines of, damn, I'm never gonna catch up. Like, he watched the Brawl Talk and he was thinking, what his first thought was like, holy shit, ladder is going to be ruined. And it just looks like essentially a bunch of CC abilities like stuns, knockbacks, slows, that will make it really unfun to play against for a while, with abilities that I'm not really going to get my hands on for a long time. It's kind of his expectation. And I think that feeling is honestly really fair. Anytime, like, CC abilities are always really tricky to add in any kind of PvP game, because they can feel really cool to use, but are really horrible to play against. And you always have to kind of strike that balance of making sure that there's some counterplay on the other player's side to like either dodge the CC ability or make it so that it gets like there's a trade-off for the person using the CC ability. I guess I'll throw up really quick, like Frank's super, for example, has a long stun on it, but Frank has to wind up a while to actually use the stun, right? So you can like interrupt Frank's wind up or just walk out of the super range before it hits you. There's other like traditional slows, like for example on Spike's super, right? Spike's super slows you when you get hit by it, but you have to actually get hit by it, and Spike's super is like a lobbable thing that is relatively dodgeable because it's not like the widest circle ever. So traditionally, CC abilities in Brawl Stars are relatively conservative. They either have some like drawback or are dodgeable, have some counterplay to it. But right now, with a lot of these buffies that are being added to the game, it seems like Supercell in general, they're being very trigger happy on who they give like really insane CC abilities to. Like, like for example, Colt now, his reload gadget has been reworked, so now it also slows you on hit. Shelly's Clay Pigeons gadget, I think, is going to be really controversial because that just slows you on hit every time, and the duration like increases every time you hit it too. Spike's super now, the projectile speed of the super is faster. Frank gadget that pulls you now slows you as well when you hit it. I mean, M's now, the gadget kind of just knocks you back and stuns you if you hit a wall. There's just a lot more CC in the game and the kits of a lot of these brawlers, and it feels like there's kind of less drawback or way to deal with, like, or just generally adding more CC, I think, kind of makes the gameplay experience a little bit less fun for the people who it's going to be played against. And these brawlers look extremely strong, so you're probably going to be seeing them everywhere. Not to mention that like because brawlers are now getting genuinely so complex with 3 different buffies being added to the game, it kind of feels just like overwhelming and like fuck, how am I going to get all of these new abilities on all these brawlers now to actually keep up with the game and like get all of this stuff and learn all this stuff too. And that, I think, I do understand that now when I hear it in those terms, like, yeah, that actually does make sense for me as someone who like plays every day and has a pretty pretty easy path to getting all the buffies, at least right now. I genuinely welcome the change. I feel like the game has is relatively simple in terms of like what the in-game brawlers actually do. And a lot of the complexity to me kind of comes from kind of like just how many brawlers there are and the complexity of like the draft and all those interactions. There's small things like, you know, in-game like game sense and like little things here and there that I could definitely learn still and get better at. But for the most part, I mean, you know, I kind of understand the game through and through, and like it's a relatively simple game right now with, you know, on a single attack joystick and 2 buttons for gadget and hypercharge, and them adding like new basically abilities, like 3 of them for every brawler, feels really exciting to me. I'm like, and also like the gadget rework that they're doing where now there's a manual joystick that you can do with the gadget instead of just tapping on it. I feel like that's really cool. There's a couple quirks with that I will talk about too later in this video, but you know, to me all of these gadget reworks and the new buffies is like kind of exciting because it adds more depth, I guess, or more well, it adds more things that the characters can do, which in theory could make the game like in a game where every brawler has a buffy, there is generally more room for counterplay from each brawler and things in their kit that can make it so you're not just hard countered by everything. You know, like if everyone has some kind of counterplay, I feel like that could be cool. That has a lot of potential for like a lot of individual skill expression to overcome even draft differences. And I feel like that could be kind of a fun way to play Brawl Stars. Then I'm just personally, I'm kind of curious and or excited to see where the devs take this. Especially because, you know, they're pretty, in my opinion, receptive dev team that will listen to player feedback and fix things if they're too strong or address it if there are issues. But for a lot of players, the general sentiment seems to be more negative, where it's just like overwhelming and probably too expensive, so I just won't be able to enjoy it along with everyone else. I think that's like a genuine feeling that a lot of people have. I think that's also compounded for like a couple things that Supercell probably should probably made it like fucked up on. Like maybe also potentially Clash Royale could have a hand in this, where they recently did their level 16 update, and the Clash Royale community has been kind of like, you know, been really upset about it because it's super fucking expensive to upgrade your cards from 15 to 16, and the new hero abilities are insanely broken, or so I hear. I don't play that game anymore. I kind of stopped when after like my 100th Mega Knight plus Evo Witch level 14 and I like 3,000 trophies, and I'm like, you know, I'm done. I give up. but yeah, I think a lot of people look at what the Clash Royale dev team did, I would say, and they're looking at the Brawl Stars dev team like this is going to be the same shit and you're going to ruin the game, which I feel like is a little bit unfair because the Clash Royale dev team and the Supercell dev team are completely separate cells of the Supercell company. Like they don't actually interact. They don't share developers, even though they're both Supercell games. They're completely different dev teams, and they operate independently. So, you know, unlike in Clash Royale, where a free-to-play player has literally no hope right now, if they start right now, of getting any maxed out deck anytime within the next 5 years, literally it is impossible for them. In Brawl Stars, a free-to-play player who starts right now will be able to get a maxed out 12 brawlers bought in like a few months. I swear that is true. Just because early game you also get more resources, they're front loaded, so like you can free to play the game right, pick up the game right now and get a few maxed out, like enough maxed out brawlers for ranked within a few months. And actually, I don't know how buffies will change that. I'm curious. Maybe I'll start up a new account when buffies drops and just out of curiosity see how fast I can get ranked ready with like 12 maxed out brawlers after buffies drops, and see how far we can go. If you guys want to see that, let me know. It's a little unfair for the Clash Royale development mistakes, I guess, to impact the sentiment around Brawl Stars and its update, but like it happens, I guess. Whatever, time will tell how the Brawl Stars dev team handles this update once it drops. The other thing though that I think is genuinely like maybe a mistake on Brawl Stars dev team's side, or I'll say Supercell side, just because, you know, when I say Supercell, I'm referring to the Brawl Stars dev team. A genuine mistake that I think on Supercell's side here with this Buffy's update and the way they handled it is I think it genuinely is maybe too much to have 3 buffies per brawler off the rip. But if you actually look at the article that they posted originally about the buffies, it says their plan right now is to release buffies for 6 brawlers in the upcoming update and make this the baseline, but they do take more time to implement than Hypercharge. There might be updates where they release less than 6. That means that like right now it might take like with 6 buffies or less an update, 6 updates a year, we're looking at potentially 3 or more years to actually get buffies on every single brawler. So even as of recently with hypercharges, Brawl Stars has been releasing like at least 6, maybe like up to like what 10 12 maybe hypercharges on update covers like 2 months of content, so each month generally has like at least 3 or 4 hypercharge that you can buy for brawlers at a time. That's kind of like the expected amount, and that's how they've been keeping up with actually, you know, releasing this new ability that they added all the way back in 2023 to release it on all the brawlers. And you know, when hypercharges were first announced back like 2 years ago, it was always this thing where like a brawler that has it is just generally better than brawlers that don't have it, and they were generally, you know, higher up in the meta for as long as they had one, while other brawlers didn't. You know, especially for the game breaking hyperchargers too, they generally are just a better brawler than brawlers that don't have a hypercharge. And the meta, especially in like the most recently, like for a lot of 2025, the meta kind of focused around purple buttons. There was a whole purple button spam meta where people were just spamming hypercharges, Draco hypercharge. You know, I don't have to rehash all the broken hypercharges, but like there were a lot of broken hypercharges that people were just kind of spamming everywhere because they were broken and were such game changing abilities, and they were so strong. But now with buffies, what essentially Brawl Stars is saying is that they're potentially adding 3 abilities instead of just 1 ability with hypercharges. They're adding 3 abilities on each brawler per update, and that is going to make them, especially right now where there's only 6 brawlers that have these game-changing abilities, it's going to make them way better than all the other brawlers for a while, for like 2 months until the next update. And you know, they can do emergency nerfs and stuff, but they probably will leave them pretty strong, and just kind of their plan will be to just add buffies to the other brawlers to make up for the power gaps over time. But you know, early on it's going to be pretty imbalanced for a while. Is like the meta's finally settled down after they nerfed all the hyperchargers, and like it's actually a pretty balanced meta, the most balanced it's ever been in a long time, and now they're undoing all that with Buffy. You know, to me it feels kind of like they could have just done like maybe 1 or 2 Buffies. Like right now, like Supercell have already basically confirmed that you can equip all 3 Buffies at the same time for gadgets, star powers, and hyperchargers. That's the plan. That is what they're going to do. On release, you'll be able to equip all 3. A lot of players have been asking for like, you should only be able to equip 1 at a time. I think Supercell is hesitant right now because it's just the amount of dev time that they spend on making 3 Buffies makes it so like they don't really want to have to compromise on like you can only use 1 of them at a time. That kind of sucks for them, because then they're just kind of wasting a lot of dev time essentially on what ends up being unused probably for most players. And I don't think the Buffies are balanced at all around being equal to each other. Like a hypercharge Buffy, I think, is not supposed to provide as much value as a star power Buffy or as much value as a gadget Buffy, because clearly one of them, star power Buffy, will be active for way more of the game and will probably be more valuable. I don't think they're planning for that. They're probably planning to balance it around all 3 of them being active at once. So I understand they're kind of in a weird spot there. Either way, even if Brawl Stars' ultimate goal was to have all 3 Buffies active at the same time, I think they kind of fucked up on making all 3 Buffies for 1 brawler at a time. Like imagine if they just did gadget Buffies all at once. Like they went through and reworked a bunch of brawlers gadgets or whatever, because they're doing that thing right now too, where they're actually reworking gadgets along the way as they go through and add Buffies to each brawler. What if they just did it in like they focused on gadgets first and then make sure every brawler had a gadget Buffy, and then after they finish the gadget Buffies, then they move on to star power Buffies and make sure every brawler has a star power Buffy, and then after that they make sure every brawler has a hypercharge Buffy or whatever. Like they go in order so that every brawler kind of moves together in strength level, instead of having just 6 brawlers every update that will probably dominate the game's meta, because they're getting 3 new abilities instead of just 1 new ability. It reminds me of back in the day when Brawl Stars added Power 10 and 11 with their Mega Pig thing. I think they were really excited with like this new, I don't know, gear system or like power system they wanted to add. And also Club League too. They were really, I think they were just really excited with like adding like the club shop, adding more resources and adding more things to grind for with like the club events and stuff and the gears, and they just went like overboard. They added both Power 10 and 11 in the same update and kind of freaked everybody out, because like holy shit, 2 new additional power levels is like way too much. And even in later on in a podcast episode, I think one of the developers mentioned like, yeah, we probably went too far, or I think it was Frank that mentioned like, yeah, we probably went too far with adding both Power 11 or 10 and 11 at the same time. Maybe we should have just done that 1 at a time. And I'm getting that vibe right now where it's like, you know, I think a lot of this backlash is literally just because it's just so much at once instead of doing it step by step. Because Brawl Stars themselves are saying like the plan is to release Buffies for 6 brawlers in the upcoming update and make this the baseline, but they do take more time to implement than a hypercharge. So there might be updates where we release less than 6. Like there's a world where we're still 3 years out 4 years out and not every brawler has a Buffy yet. You know what I mean? Like if they do it like ability by ability and release it in batches like that, then that would never happen. Like it would be like, in theory, they could do like 18 brawlers, each update gets a gadget Buffy, right? They could do it in big batches like that, where, you know, within a year every brawler in the game has a gadget Buffy, and another year every brawler has a star power. Like if they do it like that, I feel like that would be that might make more sense than just 2 years out half of the brawlers in the game don't have a game-changing set of abilities. At this point, it's like kind of weird to like, if they're already adding, they're going to be adding the hypercharge and star power Buffies to the game within the next couple days. I think Brawl Stars updates generally drop on Tuesdays. I don't know if it makes much sense at this point to be like, okay, wait, we changed our mind, we're only going to be adding one type of Buffy at a time. What I imagine the path forward will be to do some kind of limiting thing where you can only equip 1 or 2 types of Buffies at a time until every brawler has a Buffy, has all the Buffies, and then we can have all 3 active at once. You know, kind of like how Clash Royale did their Evos, where initially only 1 Evo per deck, and then over time, you know, now that a lot of people generally have one, now we can do 2 Evos per deck. But like, regardless of kind of the way the game is going to be for a while, or even the resources, I mean, I hope this difference is made up. I trust them to do it. It might just take a little bit of time, but like, regardless, in the end game, long-term vision-wise, I still think Buffies is like a cool idea. The idea of having more abilities per brawler, I think, is cool. I think the abilities are a little too CC heavy, in my opinion, and I think they kind of went too far with having all 3 Buffies at the same. They got too excited, like too much all at once. I think is a little too overwhelming, and maybe even too overwhelming for them too. I don't know how they're gonna keep pace with, like, even they say, well, we don't know if we can handle 6 Buffies per update. An update is every 2 months. Like it's like they're like, fuck, this might take way too much time. I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned. That's like, it seems like they might have fucked themselves for a while. We'll see how things go. But I still think like long term, it'll be fine. I think ultimately it'll be fine. I don't think this update is gonna kill the game or anything. Like I said, and yes, I got these Buffies, a lot of them, especially on like Frank and Mortis. Holy shit, Frank and Mortis, and Shelly too, honestly, with clay pigeons. Like a lot of these look really broken, but you know, I'm sure they'll nerf it at some point, and then it'll be like hyperchargers. They release them broken, and then they'll nerf them down, and it'll be like whatever. And then one day the game will be balanced until they decide to add the next big thing. So yeah, that's kind of thoughts on just the general sentiment right now. I feel like people are maybe reacting a little too fast. Let's let them ruin the game first before we complain about how they're going to ruin the game, or how they have, you know, once the game's been ruined, let's see then. Okay, maybe they're really fun, who knows. But yeah, regardless of that, Brawl Stars is also doing some balance changes that will come out when the game gets updated, I guess in a couple days, on Tuesday is my guess. So balance changes are happening, and you know, there's not that many of them, so we can go through them pretty fast. Also, there's also like global health changes that they're doing too, that I have a whole list of, that I kind of want to just go over and talk through, because I think just kind of go over and like show you, because I think some of it might be kind of interesting. So yeah, I mean, starting off, I guess brawler specific balance changes, let's go with the buffs. Larry and Laurie is getting their hypercharge rate increased by 17%. It is going from needing over 3 supers, like 3.33 supers to get a hypercharge. You know, it's less than 3 supers to get a hypercharge now, which I think is actually going to make Larry and Laurie a lot better, because Larry and Laurie's hypercharge is genuinely pretty strong. They're just not used over Juju right now a lot of the time, because even though Larry does more damage, Juju's hypercharge just generally is more spammable and just gets a lot more value with the slow star power or even the shield star power. So yeah, that'll be a pretty nice change, and we'll probably see Larry and Laurie go up in the meta, because Juju's also actually in turn getting nerfed as well. So maybe they'll be the new pet spawning thrower that'll be meta. Colt is also getting a brawler specific buff, although this is more just their epic gear compensation buff. They are getting their reload speed increased by 8%, because they're actually losing out on the reload gear, which used to give, I think which gives a 15% reload speed. So it's actually not as much as their epic gear gave, but Colt is also getting like buffies. So I don't think, you know, we're really going to be crying for Colt to get his 7% difference reload speed back or anything. I think it's like whatever. Spike 2 also has a mythic gear, which increases super slow amount, and he's getting that removed. So your people are going to get refunded the epic and mythic gear gold amounts, by the way. But yeah, you're just no longer going to need to have the gear anymore. And now Spike super slow amount is being increased by 15%, which is actually less than the mythic gear amount. The mythic gear increases Spike super slow amount by 30%. So yeah, it's interesting. A lot of these refunds are not as much as the actual gear would provide in terms of value. Just interesting. Next up, in terms of brawler specific balance changes, we've got Pearl. She's actually getting a really huge buff. Her time to max heat is going from 11 seconds to to 9 seconds, so it's being increased by 22%. They've buffed this up in the past, but it wasn't really enough to make a big significant change on her viability. Now she's going to be cooking people more often and faster too, which will be cooking people faster. We'll see if that makes a big difference. It looks like 22% is a pretty big difference in my opinion. She's going to have shield up a lot more. There's also another buff too that's like with global health changes. Some brawlers got more HP than others, and Pearl is one of the big winners on that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Next up, we've got Gigi for the brawler specific balance changes, who on top of getting a hypercharge this update, which looks insanely strong, it looks a little broken, she's getting a 20% damage buff. Her main attack speed boost is also being increased from 10% to 20%, so it's doubling. I didn't realize that Gigi had a main attack speed boost. I thought it was bugged. I think everybody thought it was bugged because the actual in-game visual indicator is not there, but turns out it was there. It's just so small you don't notice it, and you don't have like the speed boost like indicators with the up arrows, so nobody actually knew that she was getting one at all. But she had one. It was 10%, and now it's being changed to 20%. That's a 100% buff to the movement speed buff. So I think she's going to be really fucking strong now, and is going to be kind of a menace because she's one of those brawlers that's low-key uncounterable, like subtly. She has counter throwers, okay, but like especially into a meta where Shelly and Colt might be used a lot, where they have multi shots on their projectiles, like Gigi is going to be dangerous, man, unless Mortis meta just completely undoes all of that. So yeah, one thing that's interesting about the brawler specific buffs, because that's all of them, no more brawler specific buffs, is that some brawlers that are out of a mythic year that are getting buffies, like specifically Mortis, is not getting a mythic year compensation buff. So he's getting his mythic year removed, but he's not getting that 50% bat move, like projectile speed buff, or even any part of that back. At least as far as what I have in front of me of the balance changes. So yeah, interesting. We will see. Is Mortis dead? After all of the reworks they're doing to his gadgets and the buffies, guys, is Mortis unplayable now? No 50% increased projectile speed. Oh no. Yeah, probably fair that they're not giving it that. But I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was interesting. And now we go on to the brawler specific nerfs. So Meeple is getting their hypercharge rate nerfed by a little bit. Right now it's every 2 supers you get a hypercharge. Now it's going to be 2.5 supers. A fair nerf. Meeple hypercharge is probably too spammy right now and really strong. Meeple also is one of the best brawlers in the game. Pam is also getting her hypercharge rate reduced. Right now it's 2.5 supers. It is getting nerfed to 3.33 supers. A lot of people, I think, might be confused about this, maybe because they might not see Pam like wrecking their or taking control of the games or whatever, and they just think of her as like kind of okay. But in competitive play, Pam had one of the highest win rates, and she is really, really strong in the right situations, as long as you're not facing like Crow or certain throwers, or like if the turret is set up, it is really hard to kill her. And the hypercharged burst heal is one of the main things that just makes it so strong, with the shield too, that also punishes people who just like can't take out the turret in time, because then the whole enemy team is super shielded up. I underrated this hypercharge a lot when it first came out, but it's actually really strong, and yeah, it's getting nerfed a little bit. The effect is still the same, so I think this is like a fair enough nerf. Chuju hypercharge charge rate is being reduced from 2 supers to now it's going to take 2.5 supers to get. So kind of when I mentioned Larry and Lari's buff earlier, I think she might be now more similar to Larry and Lari in viability and like value. So there might actually be an interesting trade-off there, like which pet spawning thrower do you want to go? Do you want to go Juju, which has more like variety in what things she can do, and like range and slow and shield and like invis, or do you want Larry and Lari, who has generally more consistent damage and I guess a tankier pet? We'll see how the meta settles with that. But Juju also has been spammed a lot in like pro play. So next up we got Otis, who's also getting nerfed. Otis supercharge rate is being reduced by 10%. I don't know exactly what that means. Otis is still going to have his epic gear where it increases supercharge rate, because he's not getting a buffy. The brawlers are only getting their epic and mythic gears removed if they get a buffy and get the rework. So we will see if this like change really impacts him at all. I mean, people might just slap on the epic gear more often. I don't really know. He's probably still going to be one of the best tank counters in the game. Like his damage is unchanged, health is unchanged. Well, actually health is being changed, but we'll talk about that later. And then finally Mina, both of her gadget cooldowns are being increased by 2 seconds each. Fair enough. The bigger thing actually is that Mina is one of the only brawlers in the game who's getting her health decreased this update. Every other brawler is getting a net buff to their health, or it's going to be unchanged for I think like one specific brawler, which is Hank. But that's, yeah. So Mina is getting like pretty significantly squishier, I think, technically, just relative to other brawlers. And her gadgets are also going to be a little slower to come out. I don't know if that actually matters at all. Like, I think she's still probably going to be really strong in my opinion, just because of what's in her kit is not being nerfed. I guess we'll see how, like, maybe the net health nerf will hurt a lot more because every brawler in the game is getting net health buffs. So let's not talk about the final segment, which is the net health buffs. So I have in front of me a spreadsheet of every single brawler HP change. This is what, like, this column is what their HP is right now, and then like, you have a column for what their HP is after, and then the percent change too, because some brawlers are getting differing amounts of HP increased, but I think the actual percent change will give you a better indication of like how significant this HP buff might be, because like, you know, some brawlers might get like a 300 or 400 HP buff, and it's like, oh my god, is that a lot? Is that a little? I don't know. Well, if they have like 10,000 HP, then it's not that much, but if they have like 3,000 HP, then it's a lot, right? So looking at, I guess, the main winners of the balance changes, at the top of like the highest percent change to their HP, we have Barley, B, Lumi, Brock, Colt, Pearl, and Surge, who are all getting HP buffs of 10% or more. Barley is getting his HP increased by 600. He has a base HP of 4,800. So Barley's going to be on net a lot tankier this update, actually. Either way, I think a lot of players maybe have been feeling a little bit of like, man, I just get melted so fast. So maybe this is like a nice little thing. I think this will actually make it though, so that a lot of snipers will no longer be able to two-tap certain brawlers with shield gear anymore, which I think we'll see how that plays out. Like, you might actually see some non-snipers actually being used on sniper maps potentially if the HP break off points work in a certain way. The other interesting thing though is that shield gear is actually not getting a net buff with these changes. So shield gear, I think, actually in theory is getting nerfed. Kind of an interesting, unless its amount is getting increased too, and I just don't know. I don't have access to the dev build, so I don't know what the actual situation is like over there. I wish I did. Code Bedlam when. But yeah, for now, I got all these numbers from like, I think there was like some online, I think it was Code Chosen who had a bunch of like images of like the net brawler buff, so I use those if you're wondering where I got these numbers from. So yeah, B also is getting a net pretty substantial HP buff to Lumi as well. So B and Lumi are also getting pretty substantial HP buffs in terms of percent wise. B is getting 600, Lumi's getting 600. They're both like 11 or 12% HP buffs. Lumi actually has been very squishy for a while. They just keep nerfing her HP because they don't want to touch her damage, but they finally touched her unload speed, and I guess her rates have been like so abysmal that they're like, okay, maybe we should buff back her HP a little bit now that we finally touched her damage slightly. B as well, also like another tank kind of similar to Lumi, getting buffed up. I think this also might maybe in consideration to the fact that Shelly and like Frank and Mortis are gonna be so fucking strong, and B and Lumi generally, as you know, tank counterish brawlers have a lot of damage output. They might need to be what Brawl Stars needs to kind of balance the meta a little bit. Like B has a good matchup into Shelly, for example, or Lumi has a good matchup into Frank, things like that. Maybe we'll see if this helps a lot, and then being able to survive Mortis's like one shot insta fucking gadget combos and shit. Like, I don't even know. But yeah, I don't know. Mortis is probably still gonna be broken no matter what. With that gadget rework too. Colt is getting a Buffy and also is getting like a 600 HP buff, which I think is kind of insane. Brock also getting another 600 HP buff. He's gonna be a lot tankier too, which is maybe he'll be better in sniper maps or something. Pearl is getting a pretty substantial 800 HP buff, which it's like one of the highest amount of flat HP buffs that any brawler is getting, but like relative to her HP, it's like it's only 10%, but it's still like a lot in terms of, you know, like holy shit, she has 8,600 total HP now on top of the heat buff that she's getting. Yeah, they're really pushing the Pearl agenda. She's one of those brawlers where honestly her hypercharge should be on the table to maybe looking at reworking a little bit when she does eventually get her buffies, because the hypercharge is like, I think, notoriously the most useless hypercharge in the entire game, doing literally nothing sometimes, especially when she dies too. Like, I think the fire effect doesn't even activate it anymore. It's like, yeah, might have to brush up on my Pearl skills for the upcoming update in the season. And then Surge also is getting a pretty nice little HP buff too of 600. I think it's actually getting reverted from the nerf previously when Surge was one of the best brawlers in the game and being spammed a lot. He got like, I think a 600 HP nerf and that went down to 6,000, and then people kind of stopped using him for a while because, you know, he's just like too squishy. I think he lost to a lot of assassins and tanks in the 1v1 matchup because of that, and so people just didn't want to play Surge. But now he might actually have a presence in competitive again. Who knows? He was the only brawler, one of the only brawlers in competitive play who were not picked and banned in the World Finals. Some other brawlers got like 9% HP buffs or more. We got Penny taking Edgar, who got some pretty decent HP buffs percentage wise, but I mean, I don't know. I think I don't really care about Ticker Edgar that much. Penny seems interesting because you know, low-key I think she's kind of underrated, but you know, we'll see if she ends up being picked more because of it. And then I guess, you know, some other brawlers I think in the middle of the pack are like this 8 to like 4% HP buffs. Like, you know, these are just like every other brawler in the game got like some small amount of HP buff that will generally help them out. I think flat amount of HP wise, Rosa actually got an 800 HP buff, which isn't like the most in terms of percentage, but it is like flat HP HP buff wise, it's actually a pretty decent amount. Don't think it'll make her like that much better though, especially now that Frank is gonna be meta. All of her grass is gone. She's not gonna be meta. I'm sorry. Like Buffy Frank is just gonna fucking shave her shit schmoove. Shave her shit smooth off. Am I using that slang right, guys? Am I hip and cool yet? Some bros that got a relatively small amount of HP, like relative to their total HP pool, is some interesting ones like Daryl. I don't know why he only got a 4% HP buff. I don't think he's that good. Feels a little bit like, damn, they kind of skimped out on Daryl a little bit. El Primo 2 only got like a 3% HP buff. Is like, well, okay. Bros though, like Angelo, Juju, Kit, Gus, Meeple, Gray, Taeyong, Cord, like these are all pretty strong. Colette got scammed. She got a 3% HP buff. Like what? Colette? Guys, after Frank gets the buff, he's like, she's not going to be able to counter Colette or Mortis because they both have shielding or healing. Colette's going to be fucking useless in dealing with the upcoming aggro meta, and she's not even going to be like, I don't even know why they did her so dirty. Maybe she's the next brawler on the list to get buffied, and then we'll see if she makes a big comeback. But in the same trio as Colette is Griff and Edgar. So if she's getting the buffy, there's a chance that Edgar might be getting a buffy too. So maybe she should just stay shit for a while. I think Meg and Melody too got very little in terms of their HP relative to, I feel like, how strong they are in the meta right now, because it's not like people are spamming Meg or Melody everywhere. Melody on Heist, actually, you know, I guess she is kind of strong, so maybe this is fair. Yeah, Finks and like K's and stuff, that would make sense. Lily, also Ollie, they didn't get much HP. Draco also got only like a 2% HP buff. Like, that's fine, you know, we don't need another Draco super tanky thing. Hank got no HP buff, so he's one of the only brawlers with no net HP buff, which means I guess on net it's technically a nerf. I gotta push to Masters with Hank real soon before before the update drop. Shit, guys, streaming tomorrow, I guess. I gotta lock in. And then that brings us then again to Mina, who I mentioned earlier is getting an HP nerf. She's the only brawler on the list that is getting nerfed in HP, so it's actually going to be a pretty substantial nerf in terms of HP compared to some other potential brawlers, but still it's Mina. I mean, fuck, I feel like she's still going to be so fucking strong. She's still so fast. She can dodge so many shots with her basic attack and tornado ball gadget. I don't know if the HP nerf is going to matter that much, but yeah, that's the upcoming balance changes. Overall, I think it's fair enough. Like, Meeple got nerfed slightly, Mina got nerfed a pretty decent amount. Those are the two main brawlers that are kind of running the game right now. Hank also got nerfed a little bit. He's being used a lot as well, and pretty strong right now. And, you know, some underrated brawlers like Pearl got buffed a lot. I think that's fine. The only thing I'm worried about are, of course, you know, that just leaves us with the GG Hypercharge, which is flying under the radar, but might be obscenely broken, and all the buffied brawlers. Yeah. Oh, actually, really quickly though, too, before I end off the video for good, there's just something interesting that I saw on Twitter, which a couple things is, one is that the Spike Buffy apparently does a lot more than you think. I don't know who this YouTuber is, but apparently he has a code and he has the create the dev build, and he's showing off the Spike Buffy right now. Look at the cactus. When the Spike cactus rework is where you can now throw the cactus out, and because of the gadget rework, like that's so cool, you know. Now Spike can support his teammates. The Buffy makes it so when it breaks, it like knocks back enemies and does little damage. It's like, okay, cool, Spike has some additional, I guess, counterplay with the cactus gadget against aggro brawl. It's probably too strong, but we'll see how it plays out. But then this YouTuber is showing not only does it knock back enemies and do damage, it also breaks walls in the explosion radius where it was. Holy shit, that is fucked up. So Spike has wall break on a green button. Wall break is pretty rare in this game. It's actually like you have kind of to struggle to find it. Like right now, that's brawlers that are like considered in the meta with wall break are mostly Brock, Griff, who have range, and then I guess for short range brawlers you have maybe like Frank and like Chester sometimes with bomb. Like I don't know. There's just not that much wall break in the meta. Even though brawlers, like a lot of brawlers technically have it, but like you just don't use them for it that much. Like I guess Gray with walking cane if you get the right setup, you know. But now Spike is not only getting buffies, but also getting a fucking buffy that breaks walls, and you can use this every 15 seconds off cooldown, right? Like it doesn't even need to be that someone else has to break it for this knockback explosion to happen to break the walls. You just have to replace the cactus and you can break the wall. So with the curveball Spike thing and the hypercharge buffied thing, that's just gonna kind of make Spike a little bit broken, I think. Oh god. Other thing that I kind of wanted to quickly show is an interesting post by SpenLC. I mentioned this yesterday that like I think Claw because of the way the buffies are now basically a joystick, you won't actually need to use claw, or like claw won't be as viable anymore. Even like it kind of depends on how they implement it, right? In this video footage, SpenLC actually shows that you can't press the gadget button while you have your basic attack held out. So they've completely removed claw in a sense for any brawler that has a gadget buffy. Like right now with Hank bubble, for example, you can hold out your bubble and then gadget for like the slow bubble and then instantly get the like slow effect while you're holding the attack out. You apparently can't do that anymore. Kind of interesting. I think we'll have to wait and see how they implement the gadget reworks on some brawlers like Hank or Angelo or Mandy. I think Angelo and Mandy, it's like they're gonna let you just shoot the Pierce attack like Colt's attack is right now, which if you look carefully in this footage, you can see now when someone is hovering their gadget trying to aim it like a super, like it glow. There's a little glowing indicator here by the Colt's gadget symbol, which is under. Okay, actually, maybe I should mention that they've redone the whole like brawler underneath thing. So now you can see the gadget and the inside of the green circle that shows like he has a gadget. It's rainbow because he has the buffy, but if he doesn't have the buffy, it's just yellow. And then he also has like the hypercharged circle effect that's rainbow because of the buffy as well. Now when you hold out your gadget, it shows like a little indicator like your super that you're holding it down trying to aim it. It shows that. So now there's no more like sneaky gadget plays you can really do, which I think is actually kind of a good thing in my opinion. I fucking hate when Angelo and Mandy have Pierce and you just randomly get hit by a fucking 4K shot from behind a wall. I think it's so stupid. So I'm not really complaining about this, honestly. I think some people might be like, oh, that's so dumb. But right now you can still do the claw with Angelo and Mandy anyways to get like still the sneaky gadget until they get their buffies. But yeah, just like an interesting thing. We'll see how they implement it for even brawlers like Amber too, like because right now you can like gadget with the fireballs while Amber's holding out her attack. Yeah, it's gonna be weird how they handle that for some brawlers. We'll see. Yeah, overall I'm actually still optimistic about Brawl Stars' future. I think a lot of people might be wondering like, oh, is Brawl Stars cooked because you don't play the game anymore, you just watch my videos because you support me. I love you, by the way, for doing that. You're so real. But I'm not that worried about Brawl Stars' future. Like I said, I think I trust in the Brawl Stars dev team to like handle it generally. I'm not worried about it. The nice thing too is that if it is a colossal failure and a flop, I get to make videos about it for a little bit, which, you know, I think will be fun to make videos talking about why something sucks. So yeah, that's gonna be for me. I've been recording for way too long. It's time for me to go to bed. So those are my thoughts on buffies. Let me know if you disagree with anything that I said or have some additional thoughts on any topic that I mentioned today, because I kind of talked about a lot of random shit. I'm really tired and maybe I was rambling and none of it makes sense. We'll find out. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you on the next one. Love you. Peace. Goodbye. Mwah.